Today is day 1 of my 30-day ramen challenge, and I will be trying the pumpkin spice ramen that my friend gave me. Am I hesitant to try this? Yes, but I'm also a little excited. It says for the sauciest pumpkin spice, follow the directions on the cup.
For an even more satisfying pumpkin spice experience, try topping with whipped cream after microwaving. Okay.
I'll add the whipped cream after trying the noodles by itself first. When I opened it, the experience was similar to going for a sip of pumpkin spice latte, well minus the steaming hot coffee. I just got a big whiff of the pumpkin spice smell. I placed it in the microwave on high for 3 minutes. Looking at it, it reminds me of a peanut butter ramen. The sauce stuck really well to the noodles. So to me, it tasted like sweet ramen. It lost the pumpkin spice flavor in my opinion and was kind of like lightly sugar-coated noodles. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either.
It's not bad. It's just, I don't know how to explain this.
Then I added in the whipped cream and stirred it up. I don't know how I got to this point in my life of adding whipped cream to instant ramen, but here I am, and you're all here with me. So the whipped cream made it too sweet. I wouldn't recommend adding it. And that concludes day 1. What should I do for day 2? Today is day 2 of my 30-day ramen challenge, and I'll be trying some that one of you gifted to me in Seattle. Big shout out to Lexi. I had no idea what was going to be in the little box, but I couldn't have asked for anything better. I'm going to keep this simple since I haven't tried this flavor of kung fu noodles before. I want to make sure to be able to taste the broth. For the toppings, I'm using some baby bok choy that I'm washing along with some shiitake mushrooms. For a hint of flavor, I'm going to mix it in olive oil, soy sauce, and a kiss of chili powder. And I'm just popping them on my electric grill to get slight char. And these didn't take that long to cook at all. In the noodle package, you have the seasoning and oil packet. The instructions say to just combine everything in boiling water for a few minutes. After it was cooked, I poured it into a bowl with half of the broth and then put in the toppings. And of course, I added an egg because why not? Poured in the rest of the broth and contemplated adding chili oil, but I was like, nah, I'll probably be eating a ton of spicy noodles during my 30 days, so let's keep this simple. The broth was richer than I expected, and although you could taste the onion flavor, it wasn't too strong. I really like these noodles because they were light and didn't sit heavily in my stomach. Also, the charred crunchiness of the bok choy and earthy notes of the mushroom combined with the noodles, it was a perfect dinner. Today is day 3 of my ramen challenge, and I'll be trying Sous Vide instant ramen. When I told my friends I was going to try this, they were skeptical. Honestly, I was a little too because I've only used my sous vide machine once before. I set the temp at 166 degrees Fahrenheit. I got this number from watching That Dude Can Cook's video on a sous vide egg. Alright, it's time to get started. Whoops, I guess I need to submerge this fully in water first. Okay, back on track, let's assemble the bag. I got an awesome DM from one of you telling me not to seal food with liquids or it would blow up. Thank you for that tip because I was just going to pour water in the bag. And from what I've learned in science class, besides mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, is that ice is a solid. I melted 21 ice cubes to see how much liquid that would be. I got a little impatient and didn't wait for it to fully melt, but I guesstimated 350 milliliters of water. So for this experiment, I will add 25 ice cubes. Hopefully that will be enough to cook the noodles since it asks for 550 milliliters. So into the bag it goes with the noodles, some slices of Spam since I haven't had that in a while, some leftover baby bok choy from my last video, and an egg. Don't worry, I washed it. Then I added the seasoning packets and it was time to seal it up. I had that weird moment again of how did I get to this point in my life, but honestly there could be worse experiments I could be trying. So I wanted to leave some extra room in the bag so that once the ice melts, it could have room to get to the noodles to cook them. But I don't think that was the best idea because it made the bag extra floaty. I just used mixers as weights to hold them down. I set the timer for 15 minutes. About 4 minutes in and the noodles were still hard but giving in just a bit.
I think I need to tilt the bag so that the juices are towards the noodle side. Noodles are definitely cooking. You feel it giving right there.
And then 10 minutes in, the noodles looked done, but I was worried about the egg and bok choy. I wanted to make sure and give them time to cook. After 15 minutes, it was time to see this beautiful potential disaster.
Okay, looking at it, it's a little bit drier than I typically eat this, but that's my bad for not waiting out the ice, but that's okay. Let's take this egg off to the side here. Bok choy looks great, and I wonder if the seasoning like infused into it. Spam is nice and cooked, slow cooked. I mean, it was already cooked, but you know what I mean.
So I made the bowl all pretty and it was time for the grand finale. How is the egg going to turn out?
Now it is the moment of truth. Oh boy. Ooh. Okay. Wow. Yes, I am just really happy that this turned out like okay.
If you couldn't tell, I was very pleasantly surprised the egg wasn't messed up. I think this is a winner. The noodles were cooked perfectly, the bok choy was nice and crunchy, the egg was beautiful. The only thing I would change for next time is to add more ice so that the overall bowl wasn't too salty. I guess I could also add less of the seasoning packet. Was this practical? Absolutely not. Was it a fun experiment? Yes. Yes, it was. Today is day 4 of my ramen challenge, and I will try to make a ramen burger. For the buns, I'm going to use 2 times spicy noodles, which I'll cook like I normally do, but I'm thinking I'll need to get them past that glossy stage to where they're gummy-like, if that makes sense. I don't think they'll stick to each other if they're too glossy, so I'll let them sit out for 10-ish minutes so most of the moisture can evaporate. I'm using 2 egg molds to help shape the buns. Ideally, I wanted to do this the night before so it would have time to set in the fridge, but you know, sometimes you just get hooked into a new show and you push off all your other responsibilities until you finish it. I set a plate on top and put it in the freezer for an hour, and then I moved it to the fridge for a couple of hours because I didn't want it to freeze. I'm going to use Colby cheese, which it says is a higher moisture cheese than cheddar, perfect for melting, so I think this will go great between the patties. I cut a couple of uneven slices and then went to seasoning my ground beef. I added salt, pepper, onion powder, paprika, chili powder, and garlic powder. Formed them into balls, placed them between 2 sheets of parchment paper, and then smushed them out.
Whoa.
Pulled the buns out of the fridge and they looked great.
Yes.
I cooked each side on medium-high heat, thinking that will help it hold its shape. But they kind of started breaking apart. I was really scared to flip them because up to this point, everything was going great. I took it off the heat and didn't touch it because I didn't want to mess with them. I cooked the patties in my skillet. Thank you to the food gods for not letting me burn them. Placed the cheese on top and also some pastrami that I picked up while getting the ground beef. So as I set the bun down, it was kind of already breaking apart, but I tried not to panic because everything was going to be fine, right?
Oh, jeez.
And even though I know this was overkill, I added an egg because it just felt right. Another goal was to also not let this topple over. And as I set down the other bun, I broke the yolk.
Oh, there goes the egg.
And you gotta admit, this thing is beautiful. It had good weight to it, but unfortunately the bun started falling apart.
Ah, it's coming apart.
But it was so good. Spicy noodles with melted cheese and burger patty and savory pastrami. Like, it wasn't healthy, but it was freaking delicious.
You can tell it has already fallen apart, but I got some good bites out of it and I'm happy with that. Now I just eat it like noodles, I guess. Definitely got the spice to it from the noodles. Patty's good.
And to answer the same question as yesterday, is it practical? Absolutely not. But if I can figure out how to keep the noodles intact for the buns, I think it would be fun to try again. Today is day 5 of my ramen challenge, and I will try to make a giant ramen bun. I haven't made these in a while, and I thought it would be cool to try to make a larger one. I'm using these spicy cheese noodles.
Ew! Ew, my nasty hands!
To the noodles, I'm also going to add some of the pastrami from yesterday, just going to chop them up into smaller pieces. Next, I'm going to include some Carolina Reaper cheese that Holly got me the last time she was here. To quote her, she said, "You would love this, you should get it." Then she threw it in my grocery basket. I started cutting the cheese. I cut them into little cubes, and then this was a last minute decision. I knew it was going to be rich, so I decided to chop up some kimchi to cut through that savoriness a bit. I threw the pastrami, cheese, and kimchi into the noodles, and it was time to roll out the biscuit dough. I read the directions on this thing every time just to see if they've made the process any less scary. Like, I don't want to throw shade at you, Pillsbury, but if you're going to include spoon against seam in the directions, at least give us the chance to do it. I combined them all together and rolled it out. Then I dumped in the noodles. Now was the tricky part, closing this up without it breaking. I handled it as gently as possible and luckily was able to seal it up without tearing it apart. I placed it on parchment paper and into the steamer it goes. I added a paper towel on the top so it doesn't get soggy. So when I moved, I forgot to grab the lid to this, so this is the best I got. It's a little bigger, so hopefully it works. After 10 minutes, I checked on it to make sure it hadn't exploded yet. For the smaller buns, it takes 14 minutes, so I decided to try that just to see. It looks pretty good to me. I admired its beauty for a bit while it was cooling down. Then I decided to add rice seasoning for some color. Since it was already popping open at the top, I decided to take a peek to ensure it was done, and lo and behold, it was not done.
No!
Back into the steamer it goes for 5 minutes, but after 5 minutes it still wasn't done, so I left it in for another 5 minutes. Then it was finally time to eat this.
Alright, it's done, guys.
It definitely had good weight to it. I'm sad the top opened up, but the bottom looked great. I took a bite and it was good. Fill a biscuit up with anything and I'm down for it. Fluffy dough, delicious noodles, salty pastrami, crunchy kimchi, and I hadn't gotten to the cheese yet, but I could definitely smell it. When I did get a bite of it, it was strong, like they used fresh Carolina Reaper peppers in the cheese.
That Carolina Reaper cheese is no joke. Oh my gosh.
Now it's time to check out the cross section. Isn't it beautiful? I would 100% make these again, but as much as I love spice, I would swap out the cheese for something lighter. I bet the Colby cheese from yesterday would have been great. Also, I would make sure someone else is here with me because I'll be eating this for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Today is day 6 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make a Wagyu Katsusando using ramen. This is a cut that my brother gave to me a couple of weeks ago, and you're probably wondering how I'm going to incorporate it into the sandwich. I'm going to use my blender to grind down these noodles until they look like breadcrumbs. I'm also going to mix it up with the spicy seasoning packet. Do I know if this will work? Absolutely not. So I got the steak, which just melted in my hands, and trimmed off each of the sides. I covered it in flour, egg, and then the ramen crumbs. Fried it for about 2.5 minutes, just till it was a golden brown. I picked up some of this tonkatsu sauce from the store for the sandwich, toasted some brioche slices, added sauce to the Wagyu, and assembled the sandwich. Then I cut off the crust on each side. It looked good, but it was pretty rare. I put half in the oven at 275 degrees Fahrenheit to cook it to Holly's preference. I took a couple of bites and put mine in the oven too, since the fat hadn't broken down yet. After 10 minutes, it was good to go, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. I'm surprised the ramen works so well as a crust, and I couldn't taste the spicy seasoning. Next time, I will definitely slice the steak thinner so it can cook quicker. Today is day 7 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make smoked instant ramen. My friend Tyler of Heart Barbecue was nice enough to let me borrow his smoker for this experiment. I'll be using these mee goreng noodles, and my goal is to see if I can get a smoky flavor on them. First thing I'm going to do is soak the noodles into water for 10 minutes. Hopefully this will allow for the smoke to stick to the noodles once we put them in. After 10 minutes, I laid them down on a tray and added some water to it. Shout out to Holly for being my camera person. Also, big shout out to Bob for helping us through this next part.
I'll find which one it is. Holy smokes.
Pun intended.
Yeah, they are.
We might need some help.
Yeah. Okay, how do you guys just effortlessly just pull it?
It takes me 2 hands.
Jeez Louise. I just need to pop this one in.
Okay.
Oh, nice. Okay. I'm just going to toss this in. Do you mind shedding it?
No problem.
Thank you.
While we were waiting on the noodles to get smoked, we went inside for some barbecue. We got some smoked sausages, pulled pork, chicken, cheesy corn, and sweet potatoes. Next, I prepared some hot water so I could cook the noodles in. And after 20 minutes, it was time to get them cooked.
Check on the water. Oh, it is sizzling.
They were actually already halfway cooked, so I didn't need to throw them in for long.
Alrighty, we're going to toss these into the water. Oh yeah, it's already cooked. Okay, well here. That did not take long at all.
No, it didn't, did it?
We dumped out the water, and then it was time to add in the seasoning packets. But before then, I wanted to try one of the noodles.
Oh snap!
Good?
Yeah, like try it. It's like smoke. It's got smoky flavor too, right?
Yeah, that's
Isn't
nice.
that crazy? Holly helping me here. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
We tried to be as quick as possible getting all the seasoning packets in because I was scared the noodles would dry out too much.
It's sploogeing out.
Okay. Did you have to use that word?
It just seems appropriate.
Once that was done, we popped them back onto the hot coals to quickly toss them in the wok. I prepared Holly's plate first. So I got this idea in my head last month when I was having lunch with Tyler. I was telling him I wanted to redo my 30-day ramen challenge, and while I was telling him some of the plans, a light bulb went off in my head. What if I tried smoking the noodles? Since then, he's been a big help in planning the best course of action. Like first, I wanted to cook the noodles and broth directly in the smoker, and he was like, nah, then the water would taste like badly smoked water. So we came to this idea.
You taste the smokiness.
Not really.
Unfortunately, Holly wasn't able to taste the smokiness, and it was time for me to give it a try.
Maybe a little bit. I like the flavor.
I was hoping the sauces didn't completely mask the smoky flavor of the noodles. I put together my platter, and then Bob came out to try it too.
Do you taste the smokiness, you think, or no?
I do.
You do? Okay.
Okay, moment of truth. Does instant ramen smoke?
I taste the smokiness.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It must just be me.
Although most of the smoky flavor left the noodles, I was still able to get hints of it. We also made some friends while getting the barbecue, and we asked them to try it as well.
The question
really
is,
good.
do you taste the smokiness?
I didn't taste it very much.
You
No,
did.
but it's a rich flavor though. It's a very nice, rich flavor.
I think the reason I was able to tell the smokiness was because I've eaten these noodles the most out of everyone, so I can tell if it tastes different. It was their first or second time trying these noodles. Next time I'm going to try just leaving it in the smoker longer and not even boiling them, since I think that took off some of the smokiness as well. But overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Today is day 8 of my ramen challenge, and I'll be eating some Maruchan cup noodles. And that's it. Just kidding. I picked up a whole smoked brisket while I was at Heart Barbecue, and I've had it in the fridge. This all started 6 hours before I ate it. I woke up a little before 5 and threw the brisket in this tub of water to sous vide it. I sous vide it for 3 hours at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And this was the part I was worried about, wondering if this hot water would stay hot after 3 hours. Otherwise, I would be left with undercooked, crunchy noodles. I packed everything up and then we went to the football game where we tailgated outside. I poured the water into the cup and it was still hot, but also still questionable. I let that chill with a Jello cup on top and then went to check out the brisket. I handed off the brisket cutting duties to my brother since I didn't want to mess it up. And I take absolutely no credit for this brisket, but can we talk about how nice it looks? And now back to the noodles. Are they cooked? Thankfully, yes. I added a slice of brisket to the noodles and it was game time. Cup noodles and a fatty, rich piece of brisket in the cold weather at a football game. It was a good day. So this one was a bit simpler than my other ones, but it was fun and I sure got a lot of stares from people wondering what I was doing eating instant ramen at a tailgate. Today is day 9 of my ramen challenge and I'm going to try and make esquitas inspired ramen. If there's anything I learned from last year's challenge, it's that elote is actually when the corn is still in the cob and esquitas is when it's in the cup. Also, I don't know how much mayo is too much mayo. I'm going to be using hot and spicy fire wok noodles, which I have never tried before, so that will also be interesting. First thing I'm going to do is shuck the corn and then cut off the kernels. Then I'm going to toast them for a couple of minutes in a saucepan and add water to let them cook. In a separate pan, I'm going to cook the noodles, drain them, and then add about 2 tablespoons of butter. While I was mixing it, I was thinking, you know what? That's a lot of butter. So I tried fishing it out with my chopsticks with little success. You're probably wondering why I didn't grab a spoon or something. I have no idea, but eventually I got it out. I added some QP mayo, much less than I did last year. Then I added in the seasoning packets and fire sauce.
Oh wow, okay. I should have used just half the seasoning packet. I think this might be a little bit too much. But oh well. Too late now.
Next was the corn. I could have just put all of this on one of my plates, but I thought it would be cool to put it back in the bowl. Noodles, cotija cheese, crushed hot Cheetos, the rest of the noodles, more cheese, more hot Cheetos, a little more mayo, cilantro, Valentina's hot sauce, and lime juice. It looked like a bowl of Christmas with all the red and green. I bet this mixture would be good with the Tapatio instant ramen. Also, the more I ate, the better it got. I'm not sure if that was my brain trying to trick me into thinking it was delicious.
It's not bad, but it's not amazing either. I would put probably half of the seasoning packet next time. A little bit salty. And the cotija cheese with the noodle seasoning I think doesn't work that well together, but overall still edible. It's not bad. I liked it.
Today is day 10 of my ramen challenge and I'm going to attempt to make a ramen chocolate chip cookie crumble cake. I have no idea if that makes sense, but I don't know what else to call it. Initially, I was just going to make chocolate chip cookies, but then I saw the pie glasswares at the store and this idea popped up. I'm going to blitz 2 ramen shin ramyun packages into a fine dust. I'm going to use this as the crust of the cookie cake, kind of like graham crackers but with instant ramen. I toasted them for a bit in a saucepan and added about 3 tablespoons of butter. I wasn't quite sure if that was enough, but when I pat down on it, it seemed to hold its shape. For some sweetness, I added some brown sugar. I was going to do half a cup, but then it seemed like a lot, so I did half of that. Mixed that all up, and then I buttered up the pie pan. Then I started patting it out, and it was like touching warm sand at the beach.
Ooh, nice and warm.
I just kept patting it out until it looked okay and then tossed it in the fridge while I made the cookie dough. Okay, I had every intention of making the cookie dough from scratch. I asked Janelle for her chocolate chip recipe days ago. I got all the ingredients, but as it came closer to game time, I started asking her if espresso was necessary from her recipe and did I really need browned butter. Then I was Googling how to cream butter and sugar, and I even got this new food scale because her recipe was all in grams. But then I just got really lazy and... Okay, you're gonna hate me, but I just got like really lazy and I'm gonna go buy cookie dough from the store downstairs. I really was going to make it from scratch, which I promise I will do sometime, just not today. So I put the cookie dough onto the crust and very gently tried to pat it down. This part was a little stressful because I didn't want to accidentally get aggressive and the crust to break apart in the dough.
Okay, I'm not gonna mess with it anymore because I'm scared it's gonna screw, well actually, this part.
But once that was done, I popped it into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes. While that was cooking, I decided to make a salt mixture, kind of like a sea salt topping on cookies, but instead using the ramen seasoning packet with some flaky salt. I combined it and the salt actually picked up the spicy seasoning quite a bit. With 5 minutes left to go, I checked on the cookie cake.
Wow, it actually looks okay from what I see so far.
After 20 minutes, the crust didn't quite look like it was intact, so I made the executive decision to increase the temp so it could bake. I increased it to 400 and almost forgot about it 6 minutes later.
I forgot about you, I'm so sorry. Nice golden brown, hopefully done on the inside.
It was in fact not done. So back in the oven it went at 350, this time for 5 minutes. Took it out and sprinkled some of the spicy flaky salt over the top, and about 10 minutes in of me waiting for this to cool down,
power has gone out in the house and I need to eat this so I can edit the video. Let's see how it goes. Let's try to find a good side here. This looks pretty good. Should probably invest in a cake cutter, but then that means I'll need to cook more cakes. So far, so good.
So the crust did not stay intact. I'm thinking it's because I didn't use enough butter, but I'm not sure. If you have any ideas, please let me know. Maybe I should have baked it for a bit before putting in the cookie dough.
Got the crumbs, got the chocolate chip cookie, and got the flaky salt. Yo, I don't know how this works, but it does. So the spicy seasoning salt tied that all in so well together. You can't even tell this is ramen. Like, this is ramen, but you can't even tell.
I don't know how this worked, but it did. Classic sweet and salty treat. I had to go for a second piece and a third, to be honest.
Just editing this video in the dark.
Today is day 11 of my ramen challenge, and I'm still out of power, so I'm going to throw some stuff together in a pot and see what happens. Also going to clean out the fridge a little in case this is a multiple day outage. This is inspired by Tikita's video where she makes Korean army stew. I'm using rice cakes and the samyang stew type noodles. This is one of those dishes where most of the time is just spent prepping, so I've been trying to remember to use the knuckle method while cutting, but I always forget to move my thumb back, but I'm slowly getting there. Got my handy dandy portable gas stove and just going to put everything in it. Mushrooms, green onions, spinach, rice cakes, minus the do not eat packet. Usually I have Spam, but not today. Luckily I had some of these canned sausages to throw in. My cat always comes running when I open this. Next I put in tofu, more spinach, and kimchi. Then I added water and one of the sauce packets. And I don't know how, but I almost forgot an egg. Dropped that in and then added the other seasoning packet, topped with chopped green onions and Thai chili peppers. I basted the egg a little, dropped in some cheese, and chowed down. It's not as pretty as Teresa's, but it got the job done and my belly was very happy. Also, I'll give you a hint for day 12. It starts with the letter P. Can you guess what it is? Today is day 12 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make a ramen crab rangoon pizza. I will be combining these pancit canton noodles with these Indomie onion chicken flavor ones. My crab rangoon pizza video was the first one to ever go viral for me, so this is a little tribute to it. I combined these noodles since they seem like they would go well together. I bet a spicy noodle would be best, but I feel like I've been using them a lot in my videos. I cooked the noodles and added in all the seasoning packets, so when I made the ramen buns for my burger, the buns fell apart and a lot of people suggested I add an egg. I'll be doing this to the pizza crust that I'm making from pressing down the noodles in a pie pan. Okay, so that plate was too big and this one fit just perfectly. I added a second plate to ensure it would press down and also a bowl. Then I tossed it in the freezer for a few hours. For the crab rangoon topping filling thing, I'm combining what I usually do when I make the pizza. Whipped cream cheese, crab, garlic, chopped green onion, cheese, and sweet chili sauce. Then I just mixed that all up. And it was finally the moment of truth, with a little hiccup.
You cannot be serious. Oh my god. Okay, that's fine. It's frozen to the plate, but that doesn't mean that it can't defrost and come off. Yeah, the plate is frozen to the noodles.
So I started to try to pry the plate off and just went round and round. It got a little loose, so thank goodness for that. You know when you open something and you don't like how it looks, so you slam it shut? That's exactly what happened. There was a section of the noodles that was really stuck to the plate, so it started ripping.
Oh no. Oh no. No one knows that happened. So next time I'll just put it in the fridge and not the freezer.
I mean, if there is a next time. I put the ramen crust on a baking sheet and it doesn't look that bad. It could be worse. I added the cream cheese mix to the top and spread it around. I could kind of feel my cat judging me for what I was doing and I don't blame him. The final layer was adding some more cheese to the top. Then I popped it into the oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to test out 10 minutes to see what happens.
Whoa, 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 easy.
For a second, I thought it was going to slide out completely and end up on the ground. The crust didn't seem crust-like, so I did an additional 5 minutes. It still didn't look good, so I made the decision to drop it to 350 for 5 more minutes. At this point, I was kind of over it, so I just pulled it out. I poured some more of the sweet chili sauce and sprinkled some green onions to make it look a little prettier. I like how from the top, you can't even tell there's ramen underneath. All right, time to cut this thing.
Oh wait, I forgot I have a pizza slicer.
Looks like my pizza cutter wants no part of this. I sliced it up and here we go.
Good news is that it held together, so let's try a bite. So it's actually not bad. You're probably thinking I say that about everything. The only thing I would change is texture-wise. I wish it was crispier. Maybe I should have baked at a higher temp. And also maybe I should have baked the crust first, kind of like I should have baked the crust first on the cookie cake. Just wish there was more crunch to the crust. Actually, maybe I should have made it thinner.
I'll definitely be sharing this one with my brothers. Today is day 13 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make Ramen Tamagoyaki. I actually got this pan for the sole purpose of making this, although I was going to test it a few times first with the traditional recipe before actually throwing in ramen, but of course I didn't get the chance to. Also, coincidentally, Matt posted a video yesterday of Chef Shoda showing him how to make it, which I watched over and over, and I'm going to be using their recipe for this. I'll be using these black bean noodles since they're sweet and they can replace the sugar in this recipe. I cooked the noodles and then combined 4 eggs with 2 shots of mirin.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding, it was a teaspoon, along with a teaspoon of soy sauce. I added an extra egg to the recipe since my pan was bigger than Matt's. I mixed them and then prepared a bowl with a little vegetable oil. Shoda said he did this to dip in a paper towel and wipe the pan before dropping in the egg each time. I had the pan on medium heat, but then dropped it to low after seeing how quickly it cooked. I kind of failed the first layer because it was too hot and set before I had time to move it around. Then I dropped in the noodles and realized, yeah, I don't have the skills to use chopsticks for this yet, so I got out my spatula and I just repeated the process for each layer. Matt and Shoda made this look so easy in their video. I really thought I could go in and do it on my first try. But I mean, I got this pan now so I can practice in my free time.
Shiz.
It did get harder the bigger the thing got, and there were definitely tears. I didn't have enough egg for the last layer, which kind of bothered me, but oh well. When I plated it, it actually looked pretty good. Added some furikake over the top and cut into it. You can kind of see some of the layers, and this turned out to be one of my favorite ramen days. The combo worked really well together. The sweetness of the noodles and rice seasoning with the light eggs was great. This is one I'll definitely be recreating. Maybe I could even toss in some steak. I just need to get better at the rolling part so I can get more layers. Today is day 14 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to make a ramen steak spring roll, but I'm going to try and fry it. I have yet to have a successful fried spring roll since they pop open, stick together, or burn. I'll be using these how noodles, shrimp and onion flavor, and I'm also doing something that I said I would never do again, and that is to cook meat in the spicy noodle sauce. I have this left over from the day that I had no power, and I'm going to marinate a piece of steak in it. In my defense, I said that I would never cook chicken in the sauce again, and this is steak. So yeah, that's how I'll bypass that. After about 30 minutes, I tossed it in my skillet to get it cooking. I kept staring at it because of how red it was. And so far so good. No spicy fumes yet. Plus, Holly isn't here, so I don't have to worry about accidentally suffocating her. The fumes did come out a little bit. I sneezed and had a coughing fit once, but nothing too bad. I cooked the steak to medium rare and then set it off to the side to rest while I cooked the noodles. I've had these brand noodles before, but not the shrimp and onion flavor. It's got a seasoning packet, oil packet, and vegetable flakes. Mixed it all up and then went to slicing the steak. And time to make the spring roll. I wet some brown rice paper, added lettuce, noodles, cucumber, cilantro, and slices of steak. Then I rolled it up, and I made a second one. Which one do you think looks better? I got my pot of oil, and I'm just waiting on it to heat up. I tried to be as gentle as possible putting it in, but it still popped open. No! For the second one, I put it on the opposite side so there's no risk of them sticking together.
I'm not even gonna touch this one. Looks like it's doing fine on its own. There you go, keep going.
The first one was completely torn and the oil was all up inside the roll.
No, don't touch.
The second one looked okay, much better than the other one, but then it also opened up, but not as bad. I think I need to find the perfect oil temp for the rice paper. It's weird that when I just toss in the rice paper by itself, then it fries up perfectly, but add stuff inside and it's tougher to fry. They both have a lot of oil in them, so I'm just going to have to blot some of it with a paper towel and wait a bit, or I'll just get a mouthful of oil. It doesn't look bad and it doesn't taste bad either. I just wish the oil didn't make it into the roll. Maybe next time I'll double wrap it in rice paper. I ended up making a non-fried version so I could taste everything together and see how spicy the steak was. And this was much better. It was lighter, tastier, and the steak had a good kick to it. Today is day 15 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make ramen shrimp tacos using these Wei noodles. I'm going to blitz a package in half and use them to make the tortilla portion. I have to give a shout out to Moz, M-A-H-S, for commenting this suggestion. I'm going to use some for the tortilla and save some of it for later. I've got some shrimp that I'm seasoning with the oil and ramen seasoning packet. Putting that in the fridge, and then now it's time to make the flour tortillas. I'm using Matt's recipe for this and replacing a portion of the flour with the ramen dust. It's also time to break in my food scale, which I'm excited to do. There was 48 grams of the ramen dust, so I decided to cut Matt's recipe by a third. So after using a calculator and notepad, I measured out 113 grams of flour. This part took longer than expected. Also, his recipe calls for bacon fat or whatever fat. My whatever fat is some Wagyu I rendered out last week when I had extra pieces from the Sando. Measured out 21 grams of that, and then I needed 58 grams of water. I was just getting ready to measure that out when I remembered I had just Googled the conversion, and it's 1 gram to 1 milliliter.
Why was I about to measure that?
This is the second time I'm using the stand mixer. The first time I used it, it started smoking, so I haven't used it since. Hopefully that won't happen this time. Flour, ramen dust, Wagyu fat, warm water, and some salt. Then I attached the mixer and had some fun trying to make sure the thing was attached. Apparently it's smart to secure the bowl. It was finally time to get mixing. After 5 minutes, it was still pretty crumbly, so I decided to add about 50 milliliters more of warm water. Then mixed it for a few more minutes, and it looked a lot better. More like the dough that was in Matt's video, but yellower. More yellow. Yellow. Is yellower a word?
You can see some of the ramen bits in there. Builds character, you know?
With the ramen dust I saved from earlier, I'm going to bread the seasoned shrimp. This idea came to me after how well the ramen did on the Wagyu Katsusando when I fried it. While the oil was heating up, I chopped up some red onion and jalapeno, added salt, pepper, and lime juice. Thought this would be a good topping for the taco. Then I got to frying the shrimp. It was looking great, but I wanted it to be more breaded. Seemed like some came off as I dropped it in, so I dropped it back in the ramen dust. By the way, if you have a better name for ramen dust, please let me know. I coated them and then dropped them back in the oil. I don't know if the double breading helped, but it looked good to me. Back to the tortillas, I divided them into 6 small balls. Then I floured my counter, and maybe too much, but I wanted to play it safe after my beef Wellington incident.
Maybe this was too much.
Roll, turn, roll, and repeat. I tried to copy Matt's instructions exactly so I wouldn't mess them up. And so far, so good. I'm actually surprised things are going so well, but the real test is when I cook them. I don't know why, but I love all the ramen bits in them. A little tap for good luck, and here we go. I heated up my carbon steel skillet to medium-high heat and added some of the Wagyu fat I had left over.
Moment of truth, guys. Here we go.
I took a little peek and...
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yo!
I don't know if you can tell, but I was really happy. I mean, it's not often that things work out for me when I randomly throw things together. I cooked up a couple of more tortillas and then cooked up the rest of the noodles I had. While I was waiting for the water to boil, I decided to try one of the flour tortillas. Added some butter to it, and oh man, it was good. Warm, fresh ramen flour tortilla. Doesn't get much better than that. I mean, it probably can, but this hit the spot. I finished cooking the noodles, and then it was finally time to assemble the ramen tacos. Tortillas, noodles, shrimp, and yes, I'm going to eat the shrimp tails. They're nice and crispy. Then added the red onion and jalapeno. I was more than ready to take a bite of this. All this work put into it, was it worth it? 100% yes. So many simple flavors and textures working together.
Wow. That was amazing.
Then I dipped it in the ramen broth since it sounded like it would go well together.
Okay, that was a bad idea, but still, this is so good.
This is by far my favorite day so far, taste and method wise. Like now I know how to make flour tortillas, minus the ramen if I ever need to. On the last taco, I added a line of Kewpie mayo and sriracha. 20 out of 10, I would make these again. What do you think I should do for day 16? Today is day 16 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to make Tostadas inspired ramen. I still have the ramen flour tortillas from yesterday, along with the shrimp that was marinated in the ramen seasoning packet. I also have a bunch of random stuff I have in my fridge that I need to use. Chopped up a jalapeno, red onion, lettuce, and cilantro. I'm cutting these all up now so I don't forget later. Next, I'm heating up some refried beans, which I've never done before, but it seems simple enough. Instructions say to heat up a tablespoon of oil, and oh my god, I just realized I messed it up. I don't know why I thought it said butter, and I'm just now realizing this as I edit it. Anyway, moving on, I skewered the shrimp, and I'll let you guess how I'm going to cook them. If you guessed my electric grill, congratulations. These didn't take long to cook at all. Now it's time to fry the ramen tortillas. So these are typically made by frying corn tortillas, so I'm not sure how this is going to do. And they actually fried pretty well. I had the huge urge to pop this bubble, but I'm proud of myself for not doing so. Refried beans, cheese, shrimp, red onion, jalapeno, cilantro, the salsa that Senpai Kai told me to try, pie, and last but not least, some cotija. This is a mouthful, but it all worked great together. This is now my new favorite ramen day. Today is day 17 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to try to make a ramen grilled cheese sandwich. I'll be using these cheese fire noodles since they seem to be fitting. I'm going to toast a side of the bread with bone marrow butter that I found from a local pig. It was a bit rough in the beginning since the butter was still a bit cold, but we figured it out. I threw it on my carbon steel skillet, which was at a low-medium heat. I added Havarti, sharp cheddar, and smoked Gouda to each side. Then I covered it so the cheese would melt. After a few minutes, checked the bottom to make sure it wasn't burnt, and then I added the spicy noodles to it. I flipped it over and then got scared.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to take it off now because I'm scared.
I decided to take it off the heat so it wouldn't burn, and then this happened.
Why?
I scraped off most of the burnt bit and then flipped it back over so I could pretend it wasn't there. Sliced it in half and boom, it was beautiful. The taste was amazing. Melty, savory cheese with buttery crust and spicy noodles. Couldn't get better than that. This would be my favorite so far if it weren't for the burnt bread, but that can be easily fixed next time, hopefully. So I've been thinking a lot about yesterday's burnt grilled cheese sandwich. Like I even dreamt about it, and I just need redemption. So today is day 17 and a half of my ramen challenge, and I'm reattempting the ramen grilled cheese sandwich. My one goal is to not burn it. I buttered up the bread and put it on my skillet, which is just above ultra low heat. Cheese, and more cheese. Also, to help with my impatience, I decided to cook the noodles while the bread was toasting, which I guess could have also backfired if I wasn't paying attention. I obsessively checked on the bread to make sure everything was going okay, added the sauce and cheese packet to the noodles, and then checked on the bread again. And I think the heat was too low, so I turned it up a tad bit. I also decided to add the noodles at this point. Flipped one piece onto the other and then increased the heat just a little more since there was no color yet. I checked and flipped this thing so many times because I was so scared, but each time it just looked better and better. And eventually it got the color and crust I wanted to, so I took it off the heat. And voila, a non-burnt spicy noodle grilled cheese sandwich. So much better than yesterday's. Is it a mess to eat? Yes, but a beautiful, delicious mess. Good news is that I won't have burnt toast nightmares tonight. Today is day 18 of my ramen challenge, and I'm making something from the best Christmas movie ever, Elf. Shout out to Tabitha for the suggestion, making Buddy the Elf's spaghetti but with ramen. I'll be using these Indomie noodles. Some of you have asked me what I do with the seasoning packets that I don't use, and I just save them to throw in a soup or whatever. They sit in a drawer with my soy sauce and ketchup packets. Oh boy. So I've done a lot of interesting food combinations, but this one might take the cake. Noodles, maple syrup, M&Ms,
It's a lot of blue.
marshmallows, chocolate syrup, and good old chocolate fudge Pop-Tarts. And I had to stay true to the movie and use my hands to mix everything up.
What has life come to? The M&Ms have melted to make it look even more interesting. It's not too bad.
And you know, I got 2 out of the 4 main food groups, so that's good. Today is day 19 of my ramen challenge, and I'm making a compound butter using the seasoning packet from these Indomie chicken pepper soup noodles. It's got a chili side and a seasoning side in the packet. I added a stick of butter, chopped rosemary, thyme, finely chopped red onion, and then the seasoning. It had a really pleasant spicy smell to it. I also wanted to add some black garlic bulbs that I included in one of my previous compound butters, but I couldn't find any on short notice. Luckily, I did find this black garlic paste that I'll be adding. I like the mild, funky taste to it. After combining all the ingredients, I wrapped it up. And one thing I forgot to add, which I usually do, is minced garlic. But that's alright. I put it in the fridge for a few hours and then cut some slices. Seasoned a strip steak with salt and pepper and cooked it up. Added the compound butter and basted the steak. While it was resting, I boiled the noodles and cooked it in some of the compound butter. I did feel like it was a lot of butter, so I took some out. Noodles, slightly overcooked steak, more butter from the steak pan, and then dried parsley. 10 out of 10, I would make these again. Basically, buttery noodles with savory steak. I'm happy with how it turned out, and also I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Let me know what you're eating in the comments. In my last ramen video, we were missing a key component to the dish, the lamb sauce. And in this video, we're going to attempt to find it. So today is day 20 and a half of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to recreate the herb crusted rack of lamb with some minor changes. The first is that I'm going to use panko instead of ramen dust. Side note, I got roasted for how I pronounced this in my Katsusando video, and I mean it could use some work, but I asked my friend Yakitori guy how to pronounce it, and this is what he said.
So in Japanese, the word for bread is pan, and ko is the word for powder or crumbs. So that's why panko is breadcrumbs. And so panko will be the correct pronunciation over, let's say, something like panko, which is probably sort of the Americanized version of saying it.
To the breadcrumbs, I added grated Parmesan, rosemary, and parsley. By the way, on the rack of lamb, I just pat it dry and season generously with salt and pepper after leaving it out for 30 minutes to get it to room temp. After I poured out the herb mix, I realized I forgot to add salt and pepper, so I just did it at this point. There will be big pieces of pepper, but oh well, good thing I like pepper. I'm also going to add less oil to my pan this time. I was left with a bunch of liquid from my first video, and I didn't think that was good for the lamb sauce attempt. On medium-high heat, I seared the lamb on the fatty side down first. Just about a minute on each side and the ends. This time when I flipped it, it laid down flatter, which was cool. Also, I'm not going to be using garlic to set the lamb on. Even though I ate the other garlic as a snack, I just decided to omit it from this one. I lowered the heat to medium and dropped in some bone marrow butter since I'm out of the ramen compound butter. Just basted it for about a minute. Also, I found out that searing does not lock in the juices. Thanks to everyone who commented that in the last video. Next, I slathered the lamb in Dijon mustard, which is arguably the most fun part just because I feel like I'm painting something. Actually, rolling it around the herb crust is really fun too. I just decided to probe the meat to see what temp it was at, and it was at 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Then I put it on a baking sheet, but then I thought, you know what? It would probably develop a better crust if I used a wire rack to lay it on. Another difference today is that I'm doing 375 instead of 350. I'm hoping that will help with the crust as well. Since the stores are open, I got some red wine. Added enough to just cover the bottom of the pan and then scraped off the roasted bits. I just had this on medium heat while it reduced. It already looks and smells much better than yesterday's. After about 4 to 5 minutes, I added some beef stock and mixed that up. I checked on the lamb at the 10-minute mark and it was at 117. I made sure to constantly watch over the lamb sauce so we're not left with the venom lurking at the bottom. After 5 minutes, the lamb was at 122, so I put it back in for 5 more minutes. To the sauce, I added a little bit of butter. The lamb was showing 133 and I was like, oh no. I overcooked it because even though it's at the ideal temp now, it's going to continue to cook as it rests. I also threw in some shin ramyun seasoned carrots I have from yesterday to warm them up. The lamb sauce was looking pretty dang good at this point.
It's got like a sweet, tangy smell to it. It's very interesting.
I strained it into a bowl, and there, my friends, is the lamb sauce. So you're probably wondering where the ramen is in this challenge. When I made Buddy the Elf spaghetti, I used these noodles but didn't use the seasoning, so I'm not sure how it tastes. I'll be making them to try and eat with the lamb and carrots today. I gave all the mashed potatoes to my brother, so I wouldn't be in the danger of eating all of it by myself. Carrots are warmed up, and now it's time to cut into the lamb.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't have poked so many holes because that makes it look very unappealing. Crust-wise, not bad. It stuck to it much better than the first time. Overcooked. No! Man, how did I get perfect yesterday and overcooked today?
Overcooked, but it's alright. Still looks good. I plated the noodles, carrots, and the lamb. Then the sole reason for me recreating the dish, the lamb sauce. Good thing I had it because the meat was a little dry in some parts. Next was trying the noodles, and they were pretty good. It has a mild spicy seasoning to it, which complemented the lamb quite well. And for the ultimate bite, spicy carrot, lamb, and noodles. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I have something exciting in store for day 21, and I can't wait to attempt it and share the video. Also, I gave the rest of this lamb to my younger brother, and thankfully he liked it, so that's a 2 out of 2 brothers for me. Today is day 21 of my ramen challenge featuring building my spice tolerance. It's the same day for both, so I thought let's combine them because why not? I'm going to remake the ramen burger with some adjustments. For the buns, I'm going to use these ghost pepper noodles. I had these early on in the spice series and they were pretty hot. Ghost peppers range around the 1 million Scoville mark. Also, I asked on Instagram what I should use to help combat the heat, and someone suggested a pickle, so I'll be trying that. Another addition to the burger is that I'll be putting in the 2020 version of the world's hottest tortilla chip. I have some that I was supposed to send to friends but haven't got the chance yet, so I might as well use it. The chip was broken and I had fun fishing it with my chopsticks. The noodles were done after 4 minutes covered in hot water, so I drained them and added the sauce. I don't know why, but I'm always thrown off by the color of these noodles. Next was making the ramen bun molds. Oh wait, never mind.
I forgot the eggs.
The last time I made the buns, they broke apart, and when we used the egg in the pizza, it helped hold its shape. So I'm just going to add 1 egg to this. Now I can put it in the mold. One other thing is that I'm going to make the bun thinner so it's easier to hold. So I'll make both buns in one mold. I cut out a piece of parchment paper to help separate them. It wouldn't stay flat, so I used a fork to help with the process. Once that was full, I placed another piece of parchment paper along with a plate and bowl for good measure to keep it tight. Pop that into the fridge so it could harden a bit. For the patties, I'm going to use leftover ground beef from my ramen burger video. I had just thrown this into the freezer, so it's already pre-seasoned and everything. I'm going to make these smaller and smash them out. I think that will make the burger easier to hold as well. Last time they were a bit thick.
Well, I guess that's why they call it a smash burger.
The mug wasn't flattening it enough for me, so I started patting the meat down with the side of the mug. Also, I have something I want to show off to you guys. I got a cheese grater. Now I can shred my own cheese. I'm so excited. I'll be adding this Carolina Reaper cheese for my ramen bun video. These have real peppers in them and they pack a big punch. After a couple of hours, I pulled the buns out of the fridge. Kinda looks like a brain, not gonna lie. It's holding its shape pretty well, although I probably could have left it in the fridge for at least another hour. Next was crisping them up and cooking the egg that's in it. Hopefully they don't break apart like last time. I kinda got scared that the first one was burning, so I flipped it, but it was fine. Since I left the second one longer, it looked great when I flipped it. I basically just flipped it over every once in a while for about 6 minutes until they looked good to me. And then I started contemplating whether I wanted to add an egg or not to the burger.
Should I add an egg to this? Nah. I mean, but that would be good though. Jaden, yay or nay? Can't tell what that is.
After some help from my cat, I decided I'll add one. So I took the buns out of the pan, added oil and an egg. But I didn't want a runny egg since it was a huge mess last time. This time I just spread it around to make it as flat as possible. Then I flipped it, so basically it's just a fried egg. Just not the one my niece prefers. Now it's time to cook the patties. These are so much quicker to cook since they're thinner. I added the cheese and let it melt a bit. And it's assembly time. Bottom bun, patty. World's hottest freaking tortilla chip in all its broken glory. Second patty, fried egg, and top bun. It's a bit scary looking, but at least it looks holdable.
I hope you guys are ready for this. I'm not sure if I am, but it smells great. It smells spicy. The smash patties didn't turn out that bad. I'm gonna try to eat this as quick as possible. Spicy, but good. The egg was a good addition. The back of my mouth and my throat are burning, and now my mouth is great. That's bad. I don't know why I'm doing that. That's bad. If it's not the spicy noodles, it's the spicy Carolina Reaper cheese. If it's not the cheese, it is the world's spiciest chip. I got a big piece of the chip in that one. Oh. Like the burger is good itself, but the chip just throws it all off. I could feel my stomach burning right now actually as well, so that's fun. This is a lot of food. Everything is so good until I bite the chip, then it all goes downhill. Holy smokes. My cat is very concerned right now. Sorry, Jaden. One biter. Man, the burger is so good. I'm not gonna lie. Freaking chip, man. Just do it, just do it. I'm still getting like after shivers from the chip. It's disgusting. Ugh. So it's been a few minutes since the challenge. Really, I feel fine. My mouth is a little bit on fire. And obviously my nose is running, but my stomach is a little on fire. Nothing too bad, but it was fun. Now I know if I ever want to make that burger, I can make it. Just omit the freaking chip because that killed it. I mean, I got a little tingling on my tongue, so I might as well try the pickle since I haven't tried that yet. So it's been about 5 minutes now. I don't think I need milk. I'll probably drink some just to coat my stomach a little bit more. Pickle, does it help? It was good. I love pickles. I think it helps initially. The sourness distracts you from the spice pain a little bit, but overall the spice comes back. And I think with the liquid component in the pickle juice, that actually disperses the spice more around your mouth. I think if you want like a quick fix, pickles will work. Anyway, that was day 21 of my ramen challenge and building my spice tolerance. So what do you guys think I should do for my next ramen challenge day and my next spice tolerance day? I'm excited to see.
Today is day 22 of my ramen challenge, and I'm making something my younger brother and I would make when our parents left us home for an evening. After making lamb for 2 days in a row and then the spicy challenge yesterday, I just need to make something simple and nostalgic. These are the noodles that I grew up on. They're spicy, sour, and just good. Of course, we would add eggs to it, but we also added one other thing, which I know some people don't like, and there are these canned Vienna sausages. We always had them in our pantry. We would split 2 ramen packages, 1 can of the sausages, and 2 eggs. Good times. I ate this same combo throughout college as well. Have you tried these noodles? Today is day 23 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to make spicy ramen mozzarella sticks. Shout out to Unicorn's World for this suggestion. I will be using the spiciest ramen in the world. At least that's what the packaging says.
So inside we have 1 package. That looks pretty scary.
This was sent to me from Hyani Eats earlier this year. Gonna blitz it up and use it as the breading on the cheese sticks. The powder is such a deep orange red and has a very strong smell to it. I was scared to accidentally inhale the powder. That would not be a fun time. I was thinking about using flour, but then I was like, nah, I won't need it since this ramen dust is so fine. I also found these jalapeno string cheese sticks that I'll be using to increase the heat. First, I'm dipping them into the powder, into an egg mixture, and then back into the powder. I'm actually surprised at how well it stuck to the cheese. I did this for 3 sticks, and on the last one, I double breaded it to see if it would make a difference. And into the air fryer it went. I set it for 5 minutes at 390 degrees Fahrenheit. For the dipping sauce, I'm just combining Kewpie mayo and sriracha. Pulled the sticks out and they kind of sort of burst open. One thing I'll definitely need to do next time is shake off the excess ramen dust. Also maybe a higher heat so it could develop a better crust. When I took my first bite, it was like the ramen dust coated my tongue and it started burning, but the cheese helped with the heat. Overall, I'm happy with them. Just need to figure out how to get the crust crispy.
That helps cool down the spice quite a bit. Double breading's the way to go.
Also, props to the jalapeno cheese sticks. Those were good. Today is day 24 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to attempt to make ramen fried ice cream. I'm going to be using my current favorite ice cream, which are these Kit Kat ones. This video isn't sponsored, but Kit Kat, if you're interested, I kind of can't stop eating this ice cream. First course of action is getting the ice cream into a ball so it's easier to coat and fry. I cut open the carton and used saran wrap to mold them, and I ended up making 2, one to try and air fry and one to deep fry, but you'll only be seeing one of the methods, more on that later. I put the ice cream into the freezer for 4 hours so they could harden, and I'll be using the leftover ramen dust from yesterday's mozzarella stick video. If you didn't watch that one, this is the world's spiciest ramen dust. After taking the ice cream out of the freezer, I rolled it in the ramen and then egg whites and then back into the ramen dust. I coated each ball the best I could. It was pretty fun spinning it around the bowl. And then back into the freezer it went for another hour. I wanted to make sure they wouldn't melt too quickly. Okay, so I'm not going to show you all how the deep frying one went because I was not smart and used a too small pot and disaster ensued. I don't want to show it in case someone else sees it and tries it and their house burns down. But here's a little bit of the aftermath. For the remaining ball, I put some foil in the air fryer in case the ice cream melts and placed the ball in it. I set it for 2 minutes at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and there really wasn't a crust and the ice cream wasn't melted, so I put it in for another minute. Then it was time to take it out, and not the best looking thing, but not bad either. Then I tried to put some Nutella over the top to make it look pretty.
Why did I think this Nutella would just drizzle?
Once I got some of it on, I also sprinkled on some powdered sugar to cover up the imperfections. My thought process combining this was like some sweetness with salty and spicy, which actually came through on the first bite.
This flavor combo actually kind of works.
Maybe I'll try frying ice cream again in the future, but probably not anytime soon.
The heat of this ramen powder burns my tongue, and then it's cooled off by this chocolate ice cream. The little Kit Kats in it too. It's actually pretty good, guys.
Today is day 25 of my ramen challenge, and I'm making a ramen roll using natto and plum paste. When I had dinner with the yakitori guy last year, we ended on a couple of rolls that are inspiring this creation. I really enjoyed both, so I'll be combining it with these kiwi noodles. And if you've never heard of natto, it's fermented soybean. Some people are turned off by its strong smell. To me, I would explain it as a slightly salty, earthy-ish taste, and it's also very slimy. Personally, I enjoy eating it, even though I haven't had it that often. So the noodles are sweet, which I think will work well with this roll, but we'll see. I got my nori sheet, added the noodles, then the natto, and I just spread it across the best I could with it being all sticky. Then I just added the ume shiso, which is the plum paste, to one side so I could try it both ways. I'm not great at rolling sushi, but I tried my best to keep as tight as possible. Then I cut them up into bite-sized pieces, and I had a nice plate to put them on, but I didn't want to risk them all coming apart. Honestly, the regular roll with the noodles and the natto was pretty bland, but the one with the plum enhanced all the flavors really well. I'll definitely want to explore trying these again, but maybe adding more ingredients. Today is day 26 of my ramen challenge, and I'm going to make japaguri, aka ramdon, from one of my favorite movies, Parasite. For this dish, you combine two different types of instant ramen, japaghetti and niyoguri. In the movie, they use Hanwoo beef, which is really expensive. I can't acquire that beef, but my brother gave me another cut of his American Wagyu that I'll be using for this. Cheaper instant ramen with more expensive beef like in the movie. I'm rendering out one of the fat pieces to cook the beef cubes in and seasoning the steak with salt and pepper. I cooked each side until it had a nice sear. Then I removed the seasoning and vegetable flake packets from each ramen package. Next was cooking up the noodles and finding a little oil packet that I missed. That was a close call. Once the noodles were cooked, I drained almost all of the water, but made sure to keep some so the seasoning could mix in. Added in all the packets and then mixed it up real good. Last thing was just reintroducing the meat to the noodles. Noodles, meat, beef, and then it was time to eat. I wouldn't say this was my favorite day, but it ranked pretty high just because it was so simple to make and it was a good comfort food. Oh, also because I like steak. Good news is that I didn't have to kick anyone down the stairs. Today is day 27 of my ramen challenge, and I'll be making ramen fried rice using Doobie Doobop's recipe. I've been wanting to try this for a while now, ever since seeing her video. Just looks so dang good. I don't have the Shin ramen cup she has, so I'll be using these habanero spicy chicken flavor noodles. It comes with a seasoning packet and a sauce packet. First was crushing up the noodles and then toasting them up for a little bit in a nonstick pan. Once they had a nice color, I poured them out and proceeded to add what I thought was a seasoning packet, but I think it's more of a chili flake and sesame seed packet, but that's alright. I added about a third of the packet to the crushed noodles, and I set aside a little bit to garnish later on. In a bowl, I combined day-old rice, an egg, and the rest of that packet. Mixed it up until the rice was fully coated in the egg, then I melted butter into a pan and added the rice mixture. Cooked that until it had a nice color and most of the moisture left. Then I threw the crushed noodles into the rice. And I almost forgot the sauce packet, but thank goodness I didn't. In the noodle cup, I added sesame oil, sesame seeds, and the rest of the crushed noodles that I saved for garnish. Then I poured in the rest of the rice and pressed it firmly down. I definitely think I could have added more rice, but man was it looking and smelling good. I flipped it onto a plate, and some of the sesame seeds didn't want to come along for the ride. The tower fell pretty quickly, but again, not enough rice, and I think my crushed noodles were too big. But I went in for a bite, and holy smokes was it good. The crunchy bits just made everything 10 times better. I added a fried egg with more sesame seeds and chowed down hard. Thank you so much to Tina for this amazing recipe. Today is day 29 of my ramen challenge, and I'll be making Okonomiyaki with a special guest, my friend, a cook named Matt. It's his final day of Eggmas and my second to last day of this challenge. Man, time flies when you're eating noodles every day. Am I right? Also, props to anyone who was able to guess what we're making from what we grabbed in my Uwajimaya video. First thing we did was to prepare each of the layers so that we could just compile them later on. We cut up some cabbage, got some bean sprouts, and
we got some nudes.
That expanded a lot outside of the bag.
Yeah, and pork. They're gonna be like our filling of the okonomiyaki.
Then we made the batter. Baking powder, flour, and water. We mixed that up and just added a pinch of salt.
So what we're looking for is like a little thinner than a pancake batter.
And then we had a short intermission where Matt wanted to show off this cool gadget he found at Daiso.
I feel like I need to oh yeah, that's what you were talking about.
Isn't this sick? So I just like get my phone and I'm good to go. Look at that.
Next, it was just time to assemble everything. So we put the batter down first in a thin layer, seasoned it with some togarashi. Then we added cabbage, bean sprouts, a couple of slices of pork belly, and then more togarashi.
What is in togarashi?
It's got nori, sesame, green chili flake, and then like other spices like garlic. And then we're gonna just do a little more batter on top. This is gonna be like the glue that's holding it together. Just a little check.
Some more togarashi, and then a beautiful flip. Next, we swapped out the pans so that we could build one of the most important layers. I spread the noodles out in the oil, and it's not the prettiest circle, but it'll do the job. Then we added bulldog tonkatsu sauce, and I will never not be impressed by a pan flip, no matter what is in the pan.
Nice.
2022 goals. We combined the first creation with a layer of noodles and then onto the next very important layer, the egg. Once that set for a little, we just added the rest of the food and time to plate. Kewpie mayo, more tonkatsu sauce, bonito flakes, and furikake. If you've never seen bonito flakes before, it's so thin that it moves from the hot steam of the food. Pretty fun to watch. Taste-wise, it's a salty fish. Then it was just time to dig in.
Lisa gets the fancy gold spoon.
Thank you.
That's a pork. Pork, whatever.
and it was delicious. The base was a savory pancake with a mild crunch of the noodles, and all the other flavors just mixed in. Honestly, this was one of the least stressful of the challenge days, because if anything went wrong, I could just blame it on Matt, but of course he helped, so it turned out great. What do you think I should do for the last day of the challenge? Today is day 29 and a half of my ramen challenge. I just couldn't let it end yet. Plus, I'm in California and found a couple of ramen ideas to try. Hope you guys don't mind an extra day. First one is of Birya Ramen from this Mexican restaurant. I've tried combining ramen with birria before, but this is my first time finding a place that actually serves the combo. So they serve it with a shrimp tapatio ramen, which states that it is spicy. They also gave me little salt packets to go with it, which I don't think I'll be needing, but I could be wrong. Peeling off the top, the consomme mixed with the broth looks amazing. I took everything to the taco topping station and added onion cilantro, sliced radishes, pickled onions, and more onion cilantro. I don't think you can ever go overboard with it. Also, pretty cool that I got chopsticks with it. I tried the broth first and it was good. It wasn't too salty, which was the issue I had when I combined my version at home, so they probably only used a little of the ramen seasoning. The shredded beef was on point and I really enjoyed this. The rich broth and noodles with the fresh toppings made my taste buds happy. I would have preferred it to be spicier, but overall it was good. Today is day 29 and 3/4 of my ramen challenge, and I'll be trying something I've seen a lot of people try, but I haven't had the chance yet. It's basically using seafood boil juices. I'm not sure what to call it, but using it to mix with the instant ramen noodles. I'm still in California, so it's time to go hunting for some noodles. This Asian grocery store I went to had a bunch, like even as I walked in the door they had instant ramen. So my goal is to just find one that has a big microwavable bowl. The seasoning doesn't matter since I won't be using it, but I want it to be able to hold some of the seafood I'll be getting. I think this one will be perfect, and then I'm heading to the seafood restaurant to pick up some Cajun style seafood. When I talked with the worker there, he said spicy was too spicy for him, but he thinks it's a good heat, so I went with it over the medium. Got my food and it was time to make everything at the hotel. So I don't need the seasoning packet, but I'll keep it because who knows, it might come in handy someday. The instructions say these take about 5 minutes to cook in the microwave. So I filled it up with water and threw it in. Was I a bit scared to see the inside of the hotel microwave? Yes, just a little bit, but it looked good. 5 minutes later, I pulled it out, stirred, and then drained it. Next was just adding the seafood juices. Man, I know there's another word for it, but it's just not coming to me right now. I mixed the noodles and then added in the seafood. Crab legs, shrimp, mussels, and a hard-boiled egg.
So this is a lot, and it's messy, but it will have to do. Still looks good though. Let's try it. That's good.
It actually had a really good kick to it, and I was a little worried that it might be too salty, but nope. It was on point. I've seen most people do this when they've eaten all the seafood and just have the leftover seafood juices. I've seen it done with the rice as well. Solid meal, and I will definitely be doing this again. Today is day 30 of my ramen challenge, and I've been thinking long and hard about this one. Should I go all out? Should I do it with a bunch of friends? Should I eat at a ramen shop? I also appreciate all the suggestions I've received in the comments as well as my DMs. I will have a lot of things to try during the year. I'm especially excited to try making a ramen charcuterie board, but one comment did stick out to me, and it was, end on a high, make instant ramen your favorite way. And so here it is. If you've seen my videos, then you've probably seen this combo quite often, but I haven't made it in a while. Samyang hot chicken noodles with spam and a fried egg. Spicy, savory, salty, and simple. I did plan to make my finale like making ramen from scratch, but it just wouldn't be feasible with me being out of town. But it'll give me time to perfect for my next 30-day ramen challenge, which I plan to do once a year. Thank you so much to all of you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I did. Also, I'll show you what's left of my ramen stash when I get back home.